Hello and welcome. My name is Peter Lewis. I'm the Manager for Service Delivery New Zealand Customs Service. Thank you for taking the time to view this short video presentation explaining the new electronic process for domestic transshipments, which starts on the 1st of July 2022. Customs and the Ministry for Primary Industries have been working over the last few years to ensure our processes become more intuitive and transparent. The most recent change was a move to automated electronic delivery orders. This change has minimised the risk of fraudulent activity and improved our efficiencies. We are now introducing the electronic domestic transshipment process for air cargo, effective 1 July. This will be followed next year by the implementation of the sea cargo process, a project currently being led by MPI. I would now like to introduce you to Josh Tollidge, who will walk through the process for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. In this presentation, we will be covering the following topics. What is a domestic transshipment? Amendments to CCA procedure statements and MPI process changes. Then we will look at what will happen during a TSW outage. Following that, we will show you where you can find our DTR FAQs and how you can contact us for support. We will finish off with a demonstration on how to lodge a DTR. I will now pass over to Mark from Customs.
Thanks, Josh. I'm Mark from Auckland Service Delivery, and today I will be covering some general information about DTR or domestic transshipment requests. Firstly, what is a domestic transshipment request? Simply put, it is a movement of uncleared cargo from one approved facility to another approved facility. In essence, it is a point-to-point movement. Now, an approved facility is a licensed customs controlled area, as well as an MPI approved transitional facility. A DTR request will be put through as an inward cargo report, also known as an ICR, either as a standalone movement request or as part of an ICR write-off request. DTRs will typically be submitted by freight forwarders, approved facility operators, brokers, and cargo terminal operators. Now, we have created a scenario document to help show at what point does a DTR need to be submitted, which is currently being disseminated to industry and can be found on the Customs public website under domestic transshipment, which we also have a magnet on the front page for. We are expecting that cargo terminal operators, known as CTOs, will be doing the CTO to CTO requests, with the approved facilities doing any subsequent movement requests. Customs and MPI will now allow movements at consolidation level, provided that it is for the entire consolidation. CTOs have stated they will not be breaking up consolidated freight, and please note helps bill reporting will still be required. Finally, at this stage, there is no cost for standalone DTR requests. An ICR write-off cost remains unchanged, and there won't be an extra cost in addition for doing a DTR request as a part of that ICR. I will now pass you over to Greg from Customs to talk about licensing.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, I'm Greg from the CCA licensing team. Customs will amend all general CCA procedure statements to account for the changes. This will be way of a letter advising changes to the terms and conditions. The actual procedure statement will not be updated until the CDTR is completed. You do not have to request the amendment letter, as they will be provided over the next few weeks if you don't already have one. The DTR ICR will be required instead of a collector's permit and paperless transshipment for air cargo. The collector's permit and paperless transshipment will be retained for sea freight at this stage. I will now pass you over to Carlos from MPI.
Thanks, Greg. My name is Carlos Scuya. I'm a target developer with the Ministry of Primary Industries. One of the main changes for MPI with the introduction of the DTR process is actually around what goods can move. There are no longer commodity-specific conditions preventing the movement of certain uncleared goods from one approved facility to another, as previously seen on the General Authorisation of Carriage documents. It is important to note that all movements approved under a DTR must be done in a secure manner. When you receive a DTR approval, it will be accompanied by movement conditions which state, all movements approved under a DTR for uncleared goods must be moved by way of enclosed, secure, leak-proof conveyance, being either within an enclosed vehicle or within an enclosed air container. This direction is the same whether you're using business-to-business messaging through a third-party software provider or using the TSW online web portal. In the unlikely event that a movement is declined by MPI, but is approved by customs, a primary industries import declaration, also known as an IPI lodgement, will need to be submitted through TSW to get movement approval for that cargo. Lastly, live animals are not part of the DTR process. The current processes for the movement and clearance of these animals remain in place for both customs and MPI. I'll now pass over to Arif Khan from Customs.
Thank you, Carlos. Hi, I am Arif from Service Delivery in Customs. We understand the inconvenience you have to go through during TSW outages. Therefore, Customs and MPI have procedures in place to assist you during TSW outages. During outages, a notification will be sent out and the Customs website will also be updated for TSW status. It is expected that once TSW is up and running, CCAs will submit ICRs to account for the DTRs. Systems outages for CCAs will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. More information on requesting movement is available on Customs website under Agent Clearance if TSW is not online. Now I will hand you over to Josh.
Thank you, Arif. In 2021, Customs and MPI ran a pilot program for domestic transshipment. From that pilot, we were able to build a thorough list of frequently asked questions. These are a great place for you and your teams to start. For these FAQs and other DTR resources, please go to the Customs website and follow the link on the main page, or go to the address on your screen. We have also set up a dedicated email address for DTR support, which is on the next screen. I will now hand back to Peter Lewis from New Zealand Customs.
I'd just like to take the opportunity to remind you that any questions or requests can be sent through to the team using the email address showing on the screen. So that is dtrair2022@customs.govt.nz. Finally, we will now leave you with Carl from the Customs technical team, who will provide a demonstration using the TSW process. Thanks, Carl. Email. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to take you through two scenarios, a standalone console movement and a standard write-off ICR also requesting movement. I'm going to demonstrate this through the TSW online. This will look different to your broker or proprietary systems, but should have essentially the same data fields. If you have any questions on the operation of your broker or proprietary systems, please direct them to your software provider. I've already logged on to TSW via RealMe, and I'm now on the landing page of the Trader UI. So here we have two draft lodgements that I have prepared earlier. So the first one we'll have a look is the standalone console movement. This can be used by CTOs and freight forwarders to move the whole console from CTO to CTO, CTO to approved facility, or approved facility to approved facility. On the declaration, we have submitter, sender's reference, and flight details. Moving on to the consignment tab, we have details of shipment origins, ports of loading and discharge, the location of goods, That is the origin point for the movement, the bill of lading details, the consignor, consignee, any notified parties which you separately want to notify with the DTR movement, and the specific transshipment request details. So here we've selected DTR, we've stated the transshipment destination we want the goods to go to, and the transfer method. On the item tab, we just have a brief description of the goods, in this case console, the gross weight, and the packaging details for it. That is essentially all the information that is required for a console ICR. We move to the summary page, we check the details are correct any data that's wrong, and submit the ICR. In the case of a standalone movement, there's no requirement for a declarant, and as mentioned in the presentation, there are currently no NZ Customs or MPI transaction fees for this. Check with the software provider for any charges that they may have though. On submission, the ICR will be sent to Customs and MPI for processing and risk assessment. Each agency will respond back to TSW, which will consolidate the responses, set statuses, and send notifications to applicable parties. This is generally done under a minute. So we'll now submit the lodgement. And while that's processing, we'll have a look at the second example, the standard IR. So again, we have the same details. The standard IR is a single console, but this time at a house bill level. This example contains both high value and low value cargo, some of which we will request write-off, some we won't. We will request movement of the entire console. This type of ICR will commonly be used by freight forwarders to do their write-offs and move whole console from CTO to approved facility or approved facility to approved facility. Again, on the declaration tab, we have submitter, sender's reference, and craft details. This time we have the 4 consignments I mentioned. I'll just show you one of them. We've requested write-off in this case. This time we have to select a value. Again, ports of origin, loading, origin of the destination, origin of the movement, the current location of goods, master bill details, and the house bill details. It's important that the master bill detail is shown as well as all the house bill details so TSW can link that, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Consignor, consignee, notified parties, and again the transshipment details as we've seen before. For a write-off, we need a more detailed description of goods, the item values, the origins, and again the packaging. So once again, we move to the summary page, check the details. So here we have 4 consignments, just left 2 of them. We've requested DTR on all of them, 2 we've requested write-off, and 2 we haven't. So once we're satisfied that all these details are correct, we can submit it through. This being a write-off ICR requires a PIN to be entered along with the declarant code. Select this here. And submit that through. Okay, so while that's processing, we'll go back here and have a look at the first one, which we can see is now completed. Okay, so opening up this, we see first off the response tab. Here we see the agency statuses, in this case consignment complete for both agencies. We see the responses that have been sent out. We see the overall movement status. So MPI and Customs have both approved this console movement, giving it an overall movement approved status. As far as the clearance status is concerned, both have been given a consolidation ICR require, which is the standard default response for a console. Yeah, so now go back and look at the second one, which should have finished processing by now. So again, we've got the agency statuses, this time directions given. 2 response statuses. Again, both MPI and customs have approved the movement, giving it an overall movement approved status. But this time the clearance status is a little bit different. Here one consignment has been held by both agencies. The one has been written off and one held by MPI, and 2 require import declaration. So the 2 holds is what govern the fact that it has been given directions given in this case. Final thing to cover is the agency response. As I said, the status is determined by each agent separately, but consolidated and sent from TSW. Responses go as a matter of course to the submitter and the location of goods, and for DTRs to the destination approved facility also, and to any notified parties that you may have selected. Responses can be by B2B or email, depending on the notification preferences set up for the recipient. If B2B, they will be for a single agency, MPI or customs, and your system will have to consolidate them to determine the overall status. We just quickly have a look at a B2B one. We see this one's for NZ Customs. I've highlighted the DTR specific fields, the location of goods and transit destination. The method of transport is sent out in a coded form. The status for clearance and movement are separately identified, and in this case the movement is a DTA status, which is domestic transshipment approved. Now I said before that it's important to link the master bills. TSW will have a look at all the master bills and all the house bills under a master, and if they have all been approved, the overall status will be itemised at the top as a separate field. So moving into the email notifications. Email, you'll get 2 responses from MPI and from customs, but this time we try to show you the overall picture for both agencies on each email. The response is processed and sent out as soon as it is received by TSW, so by its nature the first email out will show the other agency is processing. The second email will show you the complete picture. So we'll have a look at the first DTR here. Open those up. And we see the customs one was processed first. So at the time that this one was sent out, the MPI status was processing. So once the MPI process is received, we now see the statuses of both agencies on that single email. This is very helpful for the CDOs to determine quickly the overall status of a console without having to look through thousands of separate transactions. So we see here that the movement's approved for customs and MPI, and the MPI declaration requirements are specified here too. So we'll go back to close this down. And we'll have a look at the other one, which is subtly different. And again, we see the MPI one came out first this time, and NZ Customs is the processing one. So no statuses here for the customs on that one. Here we have all the consignments listed out, 4 of them. And same as we saw on the TSW Online tab, the first one here has been held for customs and MPI, written off by customs, held for MPI, and the other ones are import dec required. But in all cases, the transshipment status has been approved. So all 4 under the same bill have been approved for movement, and that is reflected up the top in the overall status of MPI and customs movement are approved. Okay, so that finishes the presentation. Thank you for being here.